About 800 miles deep into Russia lies the Kupol missile plant. That plant is vital to Russian President Vladimir Putin's plans for Ukraine. It builds a lot of Russia's equipment, including its OSA and Tor aerial defenses, along with Russia's Harpy combat drones. Now, that plant lies in ruins, struck down by a calculated SBU strike that has stabbed deep into the heart of Russia's military-industrial complex. Nothing is safe in Russia anymore. Ukraine just pulled off something unbelievable, and Putin is fuming as he's forced to watch one of his most valuable weapon manufacturing plants burn. On July 1st, the Kyiv Post reported that Ukraine had just carried out a devastating strike at the Izhevsk electromechanical plant, or Kupol, which is 800 miles behind the border Ukraine shares with Russia. The facility, which is already struggling under the weight of international sanctions, produces the drones and air defense systems mentioned before. The Kyiv Post says that anonymous sources from within Ukraine's Secret Service, or SBU, confirmed that Ukraine carried out the strike using a pair of attack drones. Those drones triggered several large fires and specifically targeted the storage and production buildings at the Kupol facility. The SBU continues to deliver precise, surgical strikes on Russia's defense enterprises that supply the war machine. Every successful operation lowers the enemy's offensive potential, disrupts weapon production, and proves there are no safe zones for Russian military infrastructure, even deep inside its territory, the source told the news outlet. Further confirmation of the success of Ukraine's devastating drone strike came courtesy of the Astra Telegram channel. It shared footage, seemingly shot by a Russian person who saw the strike, that shows smoke rising from the Kupol facility. The sound of gunfire is heard in the background, which was likely Russia's air defense systems attempting to destroy the SBU's drones. Then it happens, a massive explosion. As flames plume into the air, the woman filming the video panics and tries to hide behind her window. Car alarms are heard in the distance as the explosion was strong enough to shake the ground in Izhevsk. There's no hiding from the success of this strike. Russia has been forced to confirm that it happened. That acknowledgement came from Alexander Brechelov, who is the regional head of the Udmurt Republic, where the stricken factory is located. His initial Telegram message served as little more than a confirmation, as he stated, "Friends, greetings to all. One of the enterprises in Izhevsk was attacked by drones from the Kyiv regime. All emergency services have left for the scene. I will report additional information as it becomes available." Further details shared by Brechelov later dug into the damage caused by Ukraine's strike. Well, some of it. Brechelov didn't mention the damage caused to the Kupol plant outside of a brief mention of it being hit. Instead, he tried to frame the attack as a strike by Ukraine against Russian civilians. "Unfortunately, we have 3 fatalities," Brechelov also posted to Telegram. "We extend our deepest condolences to their families. I visited the victims in the hospital. At the moment, 35 people have been hospitalized, 10 of whom are in serious condition." That's a very different story from the one Ukraine is telling. The BBC followed up on the Kyiv Post report, noting that Putin has been briefed about Ukraine's strike and a state of emergency has been declared in Udmurt. The same outlet also verified the video shared by the Astra Telegram channel, noting that it seems to show an explosion and smoke rising over a factory-type chimney. Interestingly, this isn't the first time Ukraine has targeted Kupol, the BBC says. This is the second attempt it's made since November, though the first Kupol strike didn't result in any casualties or long-lasting damage to the facility. This time is much different. The SBU just hit Russia hard by taking out a key air defense and drone production facility. Al Jazeera also reported on the SBU strike, stating that it would stand as one of the deepest attacks of its kind that Ukraine has conducted against Russia, assuming it's confirmed. Very few rival it for sheer distance, with only a May strike against an early warning radar system in the Russian city of Orsk going further. That attack saw Ukraine penetrate 1,120 miles into Russia with its drones, showcasing what Putin now knows for sure thanks to the Kupol attack. nothing in Russia is safe from Ukraine anymore. That's worrying enough for Putin, as will be explained in a moment. But first, it's worth digging into the Kupol attack and explore why Ukraine targeted this facility in particular. And it all comes down to what the factory builds: Tor and OSA air defense systems, along with Russia's new Harpy drones. The Tor M1, which carries the NATO designation SA-15 Gauntlet, is a surface-to-air missile, or SAM, defense system that's highly mobile and can be deployed quickly to protect Russian troops or military positions. The system has a turret, which Army recognition notes is equipped with both a top-mounted target acquisition radar, used to detect incoming threats at a range of up to 16 miles, and up to 8 ready-to-fire 9M330 or 9M331 missiles. Those missiles are stored vertically inside the turret, sandwiched between the two radar systems, and they're launched using a power catapult before their solid propellant rocket motors send them hurtling toward their target. Those missiles are fast and they hit hard. The 9M330 has a 33-pound warhead and can reach a top speed of Mach 2.8. That makes it fast enough to keep up with some modern fighter jets, though these are rarely the Tor M1's primary target. Instead, Russia uses the air defense system to take out incoming missiles and drones, which it can engage at a range of 7.4 miles. The system is also effective at super close range, with Army recognition noting that it has a minimum range of between 328 and 6,581 feet, depending on the version that Russia is using. Now, portability is also key to the Tor M1's utility. The air defense system is mounted on a 9A330 combat vehicle, which is crewed by 4 people and can reach a maximum speed of about 40 miles per hour over a range of 310 miles. That makes the Tor M1 vital on the Ukraine battlefield. Russia can deploy it to repel Ukraine's attacks and then send it elsewhere, whether that be into hiding or to another location that Russia wants to defend. No more Kupol means Russia gets fewer of these Tor M1 air defense systems. Reports say Russia only had around 120 of them to begin with. Ukraine has taken out several of them, including a Tor system that its 42nd Brigade destroyed back in November. With Kupol gone, Russia may not be able to replenish its faltering air defense stockpiles, which causes massive problems for it in the war. The same goes for the OSA, codenamed the SA-8 Gecko by NATO. The OSA is similar to the Tor M1 in that it's a road mobile SAM defense system. It comes loaded with 6 missiles, all of which are mounted to the OSA vehicle's roof and have a range that varies between 1.2 and 4.9 miles. That makes the OSA less versatile than the Tor M1, the latter of which can engage targets at longer ranges, but it's no less effective when dealing with Ukrainian missiles and drones as they reach their targets. And that's assuming that Russia uses the SA-8 missile built for the platform. If it upgrades to the 9M33M2 OSA-A missile, the OSA's range extends to about 6.2 miles. Those upgraded missiles can also reach speeds of up to Mach 3. The OSA's standout feature is that it's also an amphibious vehicle. On the ground, it's carried by a 6-wheel vehicle called a BAZ 5937. That vehicle gives the OSA a similar range to the Tor M1, with its 300 horsepower engine also meaning it can move along at a decent clop. When taking to the water, the OSA is propelled by a pair of water jets located in the vehicle's rear hull. That means Russia can use the OSA to overcome rivers and other water-based obstructions, making the air defense system versatile enough to tackle most types of terrain found in Ukraine. What Russia has in the OSA is a complementary piece of air defense equipment to the Tor M1. With the Tor, Russia gets solid range and a fast vehicle, allowing for superb portability. The OSA not only matches that portability, but adds an amphibious component to the mix, though it does so at the loss of missile power, range and volume. Sources say Russia also had at least 390 of these systems in its ground forces stockpiles in 2024, along with 20 for its naval infantry. It may not be getting any more. The factory that makes them now lies in ruins. And finally, there's the Harpy. While the Shahed drones Russia has been receiving from Iran and building itself tend to capture all of the headlines, The Harpy is a dangerous unmanned aerial vehicle in its own right. Reuters was among the first to report on the drone back in September 2024, noting that its official name is the Harpy A1, and that it's a kamikaze drone Russia can use to attack Ukraine's military sites. Russia also relies on China to build the drone. Components purchased from Beijing are vital to its production, specifically when it comes to the drone's engine and supporting equipment. According to Reuters, Russia had already deployed the Harpy against Ukrainian civilian and military targets by September, causing significant damage to both. Beyond that, Russia keeps the specifications of the Harpy under wraps. That's likely why Russia, along with China, has failed to confirm China's involvement in the drone's production. Offering more information would give investigators ammunition they can use to dig deeper and confirm that Russia only has the Harpy thanks to Beijing. At least, it had Harpies. Just as with the Tor and OSA, Ukraine just decimated Russia's ability to build these terrifying drones. And that covers the tangible losses Russia experienced thanks to the SBU's devastating attack on the Kupol missile factory. While none of these three systems were destroyed directly, at least none that are known of, Ukraine has just made it a whole lot harder for Russia to build them. However, the real impact of this strike will be felt deeper into the war. How? Well, consider something mentioned earlier in the video. The SBUs striking 800 miles into the heart of Russia demonstrates that no area of Russia is safe anymore. And that demonstration packs a massive heaping of pressure right onto Vladimir Putin's shoulders. In truth, that pressure was already forming. At the beginning of June, Ukraine launched its Operation Spiderweb drone assaults against 4 Russian airfields, taking out about a third of Russia's bomber fleet in the process. The SBU was heavily involved in that strike, and more details are available in this related video. As with the Kupol strike, Operation Spiderweb proved to Russia that Ukraine could hit it deep within its own territory, albeit in a different way. Regardless, Putin has been dealing with an immense amount of pressure from Kremlin hardliners ever since. On June 18, the Kyiv Independent reported that some of those hardlines were in such shock after Operation Spiderweb that they were demanding that Putin declare all-out war on Ukraine. Wait a second, hasn't Russia's leader already done that? Technically no, though it's obvious that Russia's invasion of Ukraine was a declaration of war. Putin has never officially called it that. Instead, he dubs Russia's campaign a special military operation, as he tries to frame his aggression as an attempt to reunite the one people of Ukraine and Russia. Kremlin critics of Putin are now claiming that the special military operation moniker doesn't go far enough. They're furious with their leader for allowing Ukraine's deep strikes to keep on happening. The Kyiv Independent says those Kremlin hardliners believe that only a full declaration of war would permit the escalation that Russia needs to undertake to defeat Ukraine. With Russia at war, they argue, Putin could implement full-scale mobilization among the Russian population, use more severe missile strikes to hurt Ukraine, and if worse comes to worst, even deploy a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine. Putin is holding those calls at bay. One government employee, quoted by the Kyiv Independent, says that Putin's inner circle has convinced him that a declaration of war is a bad idea. Mobilization undermines economic stability. And why is it needed now? We have caliber missiles, we have volunteers. Their resources are not yet exhausted, the employee claimed. But there's another reason Putin is resisting these efforts. According to the Institute for the Study of War's Carolina Hurd, who spoke to the Kyiv Independent on June 22, avoiding an official war declaration allows Putin to protect himself. Putin has protected himself in this war by separating the direct effects of the war from the majority of the Russian population, Hurd says. But as soon as that starts to spill over and actually be felt by more of the Russian domestic population, that's when he gets into more trouble. These calls throw a different light onto Ukraine's Kupol strike. What on the surface seems to be little more than an attack on Russia's weapons manufacturing capacity runs much deeper. The SBU knows that more deep strikes create pressure on Putin. They stoke the fire that Kremlin hardliners have already lit for an official declaration of war. With that declaration comes mobilization, as Russia's population is forced to accept the fact that Putin has been trying to hide from them all along. the special military operation has failed. Putin can't afford to make that admission because the support for his Ukraine invasion is already shaky. The Atlantic Council called that support a reluctant consensus back in December 2024, noting that support for Putin's war fluctuates between 60 and 75% depending on the pollster conducting surveys. However, the council points out that the past wars started by Putin have been relatively painless for the average Russian. That's not so with the Ukraine invasion. Russia has suffered over 1 million casualties since February 2022, meaning the war has already affected several million people inside Russia. Those who aren't on the front lines likely know somebody who is, or have lost a person who was close to them. Now with strikes like that at Kupol and Operation Spiderweb, the war is coming to roost. Even before these strikes, the Journal of Democracy was claiming that Russians were souring on Putin's invasion in February. It cited a September 2024 survey, noting that 47% of Russians believe the special military operation has caused more harm than benefit. Only 28% said more benefit had come from the campaign, with the rest remaining neutral. With Kupol, Ukraine created more pressure on Putin. He either gives in to the call to officially declare war against Ukraine, which angers Russia's population due to opening up the possibility of full mobilization, or he continues to resist the war and has to wait, knowing that anger is bubbling under the surface and grows with every successful strike Ukraine carries out. As all of this pressure builds, Putin is trying to organize a massive summer offensive inside Ukraine. And that's where something else mentioned earlier in the video comes into play: the reduction of Russia's offensive potential. According to CNN, the goal of Putin's summer offensive is to pursue territorial gains, primarily in the Sumy and Donetsk Oblasts. He's amassed plenty of soldiers for the job. In Sumy, 50,000 troops are trying to create a buffer zone to protect Russia's borders against any future attempts Ukraine makes to pull off something like the Kursk counter-invasion of 2024. In Donetsk, Putin has gathered 110,000 troops near the key city of Pokrovsk, where there are now 50 clashes per day. CNN says there were 70,000 troops in this region back in December, demonstrating that Putin is intensifying his Donetsk campaign this summer. So where does the Kupol strike fit into all of this? Manpower alone isn't going to be enough for Putin's summer offensive to succeed. Ukraine is well defended to the point where it's already claiming to have stalled the Sumy advance. What Putin also needs is plenty of drones to strike Ukraine's positions and enough air defenses to guard the territory he snatches up. Both of these types of weapons are now in shorter supply thanks to the SBU. On the drone front, Russia has intensified its strikes in June to go along with Putin's summer campaign. On July 1st, Euronews reported that Russia launched a record-breaking 5,438 drones at Ukraine in June alone. That's over 1,200 more than the 4,198 drones used in May, which itself represented a record-breaking month. Both frequency and the number of drones used per TAC have increased, which is why taking out facilities like Kupol is so important. Ukraine needs to reduce the intensity of these drone strikes to relieve pressure on itself. And as it's doing that, it also wants to hurt Russia's air defenses so it can carve safe aerial pathways throughout Ukraine. It's already doing a great job of that. August 2024 saw Business Insider note that Russia's air defenses had become so stretched that Putin was being forced to pick and choose where he sent units like his Tor M1s, OSAs and S-300 air defense units. Total coverage isn't possible anymore, especially as Ukraine started launching more attacks on Russia's territory. The situation hasn't gotten any better for Russia. By May of this year, United 24 media was reporting that Russia had started withdrawing S-300 and S-400 air defense systems from the Far East. It's replacing those systems with dozens of fakes in a desperate attempt to pretend it can still showcase power in Asia. It can't. Russia is pulling its air defenses because it needs them to fill the gaps Ukraine has already created by destroying 1,191 Russian anti-aircraft warfare units since the start of Putin's invasion. Now, combine the loss of drones and air defenses Ukraine has forced on Russia with the SBU strike against Kupol, and the result is Russia weakening further right at the time that Putin needs it to be strong. Fewer drones being built means his attacks on Ukraine cities don't cause as much damage. With no more new Tor M1 and OSA air defense systems to replace those Russia is losing in Ukraine, secure aerial pathways start opening up. Ukraine can use those pathways to cause even more damage to Russia's troops and equipment, potentially opening up the possibility of counterattacks in the future. Failing that, Ukraine can at least start hitting more of Russia's logistical and storage facilities, halting Russia's summer offensive in the process. As usual, the SBU chose its target very carefully. It not only struck deep into the heart of Russia, but it landed a killer blow on a factory that Putin needs if he's to have any chance of achieving his goals for the summer. Deadly, ruthless, efficient. The SBU is all three, and Kupol is just the latest example. But it's far from the only one, as Ukraine's been hitting Russia where it hurts ever since Putin launched his invasion. Learn more in this video covering how the SBU has done over $5 billion of damage to Russia since February 2022. And remember to subscribe to the Military Show for more videos covering the latest successful Ukrainian strikes against Russia.